About how sport is a complex space, and a lot of it for me boils down to the loss of culture and how Indigenous people are trying to rebuild themselves through culture. And so, when I was talking about all of the hard things that I was trying to work through in high school, and I didn't quite have the language for, and all of the things that I wrestled with in university, and still now, it much of it boils down to the way in which Indigenous people were dispossessed of their culture, and how they are trying to find their way back through culture, and part of this is through physical culture. So I think it's really important that people understand that history and what it is that Indigenous people are trying to do with that history through physical culture. And yet at the same time, I really wrestled with myself being, Indigenous in this mainstream sports system, because I was pretty good at sports, and just really wrestling with, where did this other part of me go, right? And, how come no one wants to talk about it? And how come, I'm getting so much recognition for, just being a fast runner? Like what exactly does this mean, right? Like, I'm chasing this abstract time. I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm working really hard at it, but people somehow think it's easy for me because I'm Indian, which is racism in case you don't get it. It's, I mean, it was just this like really weird space, and I couldn't, reconcile it because I didn't understand the history. No one was talking about the role of physical culture or sport in, the history of that dispossession. And it really didn't start to clue in for me until I was at the 1995 Indigenous Games. And even then I didn't quite understand it. It's just a lot of what I learn, and everybody's a different learner, but a lot of what I learn is visceral, like I feel it. And culture, sport is culture. Mainstream sport is culture. Indigenous physical culture is culture. But there's, this movement now to try and reclaim Indigenous cultures and to rebuild identities through sport. And not a lot of people quite understand that. They think they can do that through mainstream sport by not changing anything. Just you get involved in mainstream sport and then everything will kind of be fine, as if sport is apolitical, but it isn't. And so it makes it very difficult then for Indigenous people to, move forward with their own aspirations for sport in their own way, because people just fundamentally don't understand the history, and they don't understand where it is that people are trying to go. And they think that the system that is already there is the best way to do it. And the Indigenous sports system somehow is just some sort of tertiary system. Like it's some sort of like, secondary branch that can be given a little pot of money like every now and again and supported. And then they'll be fine because, well, they're doing culture, they're doing something different. It doesn't have to be supported in the same way or equitably. So yeah, culture, I think for me is this really deep kind of headspace that I've had to think through, that I've felt, and I think a lot of people, are kind of in the same space.